Doggies fans, all things Bulldogs. Canterbury fans, as the losses start to tally, are saying, where's our experienced seven? Where's our experienced prop forwards? We haven't had them since we were last successful. Why isn't the club signing these players? Well, there's a reason. They're very hard to get away from successful clubs, and they don't want to go to a club that's had the bad perception in the media that we've had, which the club's been trying to rectify. If you'll notice, there's a lot of trade-off. Wheelder gets all the scoops, and the trade-off is that there's less negative reporting about the Bulldogs. And it's been obvious since Gus got there. And one of the things that the chairman was told in forums that they did, and things that he said, and that's from players, from sponsors, from players' families, from fans, players that they haven't been able to get, one of the common denominators is that that the perception of the Bulldogs in the media makes the Bulldogs an unattractive place to go to. The perception of our fans is also a worry, and that is why the club's done a lot of hype on the area, on the players, and on everything that they're doing. They've decided to try and work on themselves, knowing that they just can't go and buy the key positions they need, which is why they've been in this constant state where they're continually paying more for wingers to become centres or centres to become fullbacks. You know, and Stephen Crichton looks like they made the same mistake doing that. But essentially that's the cards that were being dealt by being an unsuccessful club. Unsuccessful clubs don't have the luxury to go out and sign 4 of the best forwards in the game and just bring them in, whereas a successful club will, and they won't have to sign that many. But any year of failure for the Dogs in the 80s, I think we had 87 and 89, was followed up by recruitment, and that improved us immediately because the people coming knew that they were going to a successful club, and that's half the battle. When you have nearly a decade of failure, you've got 2-year board meetings and everyone cannibalising each other and the fans going off and protests and just absolutely bad perception in the media. This creates the vacuum that I'm talking about, that just sucks in players you don't need in abundance, and impossible to actually get the ones that you do need. For a start, they're so hard to get, clubs won't let them go, they're rare, and then so you're forced to develop your own and persevere until they're ready. And often that's hard to do because they get so much hate while they develop, it makes it almost impossible. The other fact of the matter is that players in those positions need a lot more money to come, and even the money, they won't do it. So the only thing they do is go to another club which is successful. Look at the likes of Brandon Smith. We couldn't get him, we were chasing him. There's lots we've been chasing now. The one guy we had, Paul Vaughan, that was being consistent in the middle and holding it up for 5 years, probably in the top 7 or 8 props in the game every year. We let him go, so that's a mistake we have to learn from. They get too many. There's a lot of players that you go, why did we buy them players? And in hindsight, I think Gus hopefully learns that he can rely on some of those juniors that we've got to fill those holes rather than to bring players across. But there is also talk that sometimes with player managers, if you give one of their lesser known players a spot in your 30, even if they may not even get a game, they won't cost much money, and it may open up a door for a better signing down the track. So there's lots to take into account. It's a big recruitment wars that go on. So Canterbury's identify that a problem in the media. They get Gus Gould in. A lot of our negative media from that organisation is gone, wiped. And that's going to help us. They establish the pathways, which is the future. we've won Harold Matthews. We're strong in every single group. SG Ball, a little bit disappointing, but had some really good moments, beat some good sides, and probably underperformed. And we had some players ready to go into our top 30 for next year out of that side. I think one of them's dropped out in Iverson Matai, had some issues, but he's got another chance with West now. But the fact of the matter is that the pathways are established. They're established. They're going. And it's not just from Gus. They've been working on that for quite a while, and now they've extended it further. And he's talked about academies in New Zealand, getting a piece of that. Toowoomba and Sunshine Coast and all these areas. They've hired the likes of Blake Wilson, Karaz, Max King, getting these guys, and Preston, instant success with these guys. Gerald Skelton, we all waiting for him to get a go, and they know he's going to be great. They really do. They've got, and we wouldn't have got Viliami Kikau or Reed Marnie. They just wouldn't be at our club. The only players we've been able to sign are players that have had a relationship with the coach previously, and that there's a desire for those clubs to let those players go, essentially. Reed Marnie was a big scoop, and so was Matt Burton. But Burton, far from the finished product, and as any young player playing the halves, he needs his time to establish himself. If he doesn't have that, he's not going to get there. So, what do we need? We need an established 7 and an established middle, and we go a lot further up the ladder. We do that, it makes everyone in those other positions play better. It's going to make them look better and develop faster, especially the likes of Oluwapu and Burton. If you could bring in, say, 300 games of experience from Ben Hunt, who spent 75 games on the bench himself. So be able to explain how it all works and how he's made himself into a millionaire from doing it without winning a premiership. Very, very close, obviously. We all know what happened there. The Saifidi brothers, leaders of the pack. One or both of them would be fantastic for Canterbury. Would take us up the ladder. So there's some players that I've identified there, well, that aren't hard to identify. Anyone would agree, many people would agree, would help our chances immensely. So we've had bad perception in the media, and we've had no success, and our pathways fell apart. I do believe they've made some mistakes in looking past some of our juniors, but in saying that, the injuries have given them an opportunity, and a player like Harrison Edwards and a player like Blake Wilson, Curtis Moran, Sam Hughes, these players are getting their opportunities and will hopefully get themselves a 24 contract to fill some of those smaller contracts in the cap, which frees them up to buy that big fish. And hopefully that big fish comes in the way of a Jacob or Daniel Saifidi, or both, or even a Payne Huss, which I've heard whispers about. But these are the type of players we need. You have them running first, then have like the likes of King, Sutton, Tavita, Pele, all coming in running off the back of these guys, and I tell you what, you have got a much better side, a ready-made finals contending side. Add to that the likes of a Ben Hunt to free up Matty Burton, and then bring Oluwapu on to get his experience and to fill in the team when required. I'm telling you, that's the makings of a great NRL team. So that's the nutshell, guys. That's the reason we haven't signed those players. They don't want to come to the club. We have stunk. We've had no success. When you've got success, or your team's been successful, players will just come into your club. And that's what's happened throughout the previous decades where we've been successful. It's been very easy to go and get new players, and then to go out there and, they still did a good job identifying youngsters in different areas as well to join the family. But anyway, guys, that's some perspective there. The Bulldogs have improved themselves in many ways. It's been very hard to get the right players. They've been relying on getting players out of position, and as they're the only ones available. Players that are have relationships with the coaches that we've brought, and it's not a bad thing to have Penrith coaches and a Penrith former GM, because that does open us to opportunities of quality players, proven players. We just need to get the ones in the right positions that'll sort of complete the puzzle and keep us going until those juniors are ready to progress and take the next step forward. Thanks for your subscriptions and all your support. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Hopefully it adds some context, and and rather than just piling more crap on the board and on all the bad decisions they've made, look at the reality and how it compares. It's actually a reality. And if you really think about it and look at everything that's happened, all of that makes a lot of sense. Well, it does to me anyway. Keen to hear your thoughts, guys. Thank you so much, and take care. Go the Dogs.